further ado, our final presentation will let you learn about Alzheimer's disease from someone who lives with it every day. I think one of the things that we've seen today is that the face of Alzheimer's continues to change. Brian LeBlanc was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease approximately 4 years ago. Since that time, he's been sharing his story and experiences to provide a voice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. He helps caregivers and their families understand what people with Alzheimer's are going through so they can improve the level and quality of care. Most importantly, he refused to allow Alzheimer's to define him. In your packets, you should have a copy of our AFA Care Quarterly. There's Brian is on the cover. He's our poster person for the latest issue of AFA Care Quarterly. But without further ado, please welcome Brian LeBlanc.
I know you don't remember, but these are the words that were spoken to me time after time after time when my family would ask me a question, make a statement. They would not believe that I could remember anything. So instead, they just believed that I wouldn't remember anything, so they started a statement like that, which in my mind kind of dismissed who I was. So how's he doing? This is when I'd be walking in a mall, a park, down the street, and whoever I was with, the person would come up and they would greet us together, and then they would look at the person that I was with, and they would lean in a very hushed tone and say, "So how's he doing?" And me, being who I am, I would lean back to them and say, "I'm doing okay." And they would get this wondrous look on their face, like, "Wow, he can talk." But you don't look like you have Alzheimer's. Let's just say if I had a nickel for every time that I've been told that, I would be able to, retire in wealth. But that's not the case because of the fact being diagnosed at an earlier age does have the effect of stigma. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But these comments that have been told to me, or these questions, or these statements, time after time after time, basically made me feel like I was being dismissed, or as a child being put in the corner for time out. Let the grown-ups talk amongst themselves. We can't talk to you, so we'll talk to other people who can talk for you. Well, I got tired of that. I spent a lot of time in the corner as a kid. Wasn't a very good kid most of the time, so. But I don't belong in the corner. I belong here. I belong in front because I matter. My life matters. And for now, and sometimes, my brain still matters. It might misfunction or malfunction every now and then. That's part of having Alzheimer's. And these are things that I learn every single day. Every day is a learning experience for me. Things that I find out today, I may not remember tomorrow. I might have met you today, and you can come up to me tomorrow and say, "Hey, Brian, how are you?" And I'll say, "Hey, How you? I may remember your face. I won't remember your name. And that's not because I don't want to remember. I want to remember. It's because I can't remember. It's because of this thing that I have called Alzheimer's. So here's my family history. You heard Dr. Levy talk about this earlier, how it's genetic. Well, my maternal grandmother, great-grandmother, she died in the 1800s. Now, Alzheimer's was discovered in 1908 by Alois Alzheimer's. And as a side note, the one bad thing about having Alzheimer's is having to learn how to spell Alzheimer's. I wish it was Dr. Jones or Dr. Smith. I had Jones disease. No, I have the worst word you can mispronounce and have to learn how to spell. But unfortunately, I do know how to spell it now. But in the 1800s, my great-grandmother died with senility, or hardening of the arteries, or whatever they called it back then. They had never even heard of Alzheimer's disease before. Then my maternal grandfather, he died in 1985 with Alzheimer's. Now at that time, there was no Google, no any search engines, there wasn't even a cell phone. So we relied on our Funk and Wagnalls encyclopedias, and we looked it up. There was about that much, hardly anything. They still were calling it hardening of the arteries. I'm not sure if they were still calling it senility at that time, but the hardening of the arteries was basically what they called it. But we knew, the doctor told us that he had Alzheimer's. So we tried to make sense of it. And we watched him as he went along on his journey. He was a wanderer. And my grandmother and him, they lived very close to us. And so 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone would ring. It would be my grandmother. And she'd say, "He's gone again." I said, "All right." So I would go out, and it was always 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He couldn't do it at 10 o'clock at night, It was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But he would get up and kiss my grandmother goodbye, put on his hat, put on his coat, on top of his pajamas, and tell my grandmother he was going to work. Because that was his reality. That's what he did for so long. And so I would ride around in all the familiar places looking for him. Sometimes I'd find him. He was always surprised and always smiling. I'd say, "Hey, Papa, come on, let's go back home." He goes, "Hey, what you doing around here?" I said, "Oh, I was out for a drive. I figured I would just drive around, and there you were." He says, "Okay." He'd hop in the car, driving home, we'd go inside, he'd take his hat, his coat off, climb into bed, and in 2 minutes he'd be sleeping. So that was my introduction to Alzheimer's disease. I thought that's what it was going to be like from the get-go. Then my father, he died with vascular dementia in 2010. He had a quintuple bypass. So he had the heart disease already. He had a couple of heart attacks, had a couple of strokes. And that brought on the vascular disease. He still had his mind most of the time, but he started to stray a little bit, started to forget things, started to repeat things. He couldn't remember most things, but he did remember my oldest brother on the day that he took away his the keys to the car. He never forgot that. He would sit there and have a conversation with my brother, and he'd just be, talking, and all of a sudden his face would get real serious. And he goes, "You the guy that took my keys, huh?" Well, it wasn't me. I got in enough trouble, trust me. But you know, he died with his vascular dementia. And then my mother died in 2015 with Alzheimer's. And that was the hardest thing, to see your mother kind of disappear before your eyes. She sang in church for years. We were born and raised in the Catholic Church. She went to daily mass every day. She went to, on Saturday afternoons, she went to Oxford Hospital in New Orleans to go sing for the 3 o'clock Saturday mass. And then from there, she went to the St. Agnes Church to sing for the 5 o'clock mass. That was on Saturday. Then on Sunday, she went to the 9:30 mass to sing with the choir. And if nobody showed up at the 5 o'clock mass on Sunday, they would call her and she would go do that. Plus go to mass every single day. So, very faithful woman. And then we started finding things in the refrigerator. We'd open the refrigerator door, there would be a bottle, a gallon jug of bleach that she thought was milk. My sister would come over and try to help her have a Sunday meal, and she'd say, "Mom, why don't you get the napkins out?" Just so she would be able to do something, because my mom wanted to help. And she would put everything and anything but a napkin on the table, because she wouldn't know what a napkin was anymore. So we knew that, you know, she was further along, and that's when we decided that they weren't able to live at home anymore, because my father had been progressing also. But if you see with each one of those, I say that my maternal grandmother, my grandfather, my father, and my mother, they all died with. They didn't die from. They died with it. Because this is something that they developed. This is something that they had. This was like that irritating relative that comes on Thanksgiving to celebrate, and on Christmas morning they're still sleeping on your couch. They never ever go away. They're always with you, irritating you almost every day. So when they died with us. The disease causes things in the body to stop working. So it wasn't Alzheimer's or dementia that made them die. It was these things that had lived with them, and now it died with them. And then there's me. I was diagnosed in October of 2014, 3 months before my mother passed away. That was a hard time. And people always ask me, they say, "Well, how did you know? Did you forget something?" Well, I actually had to answer them with the response of, "I don't really know. I can only tell you what I've heard." One time that I thought was one time, I got lost while driving. So I called my wife and I said, "Give me directions." And it was going to my doctor's office, where, I've been to the doctor's office many, many, many times. I knew my way. I had no idea where I was. So she had helped me put things into the GPS, which I did. Got to the doctor's office, went home. Well, that night, as I walked into the living room, my wife and my daughter were sitting on the sofa. And my wife said, "Sit down, we need to talk." Now, if you're a married man, you never want to hear those words. Because that automatically makes you feel, I did something wrong and now I'm going to get yelled at. But she opened up and she said, "Do you know how many times you've been lost while driving?" And I said, "You mean before today?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "I have no idea." And she goes, "I do." And she took out a piece of paper where she had kept And I had been lost over 20 times in just 6 months. She noticed it. I didn't. And then my daughter told me something that was very startling. She said, since 2008, I didn't know she was keeping track. Since 2008, you've been repeating the same things over and over again. You've been telling the same jokes. You've been asking the same questions. I said, how do you know? She says, when you tell a joke over and over and over again, you laugh just as hard as you did that first time that you told it. You have no clue that you said it over again. So I knew it was time to get checked. I don't like all that testing, I can tell you. The MOCA testing, I failed miserably. And I didn't just fail miserably once. I failed miserably 4 times. One of the things they ask you to do is to draw a clock or draw a watch, or you have to draw it and put all the numbers in the hands. I couldn't do it. And then I realized that I couldn't even tell time on my watch anymore. Now, over the years, I've collected watches. I have 47 watches right now sitting on my dining room table. I'm taking pictures of them now and selling them on eBay because I can't use them anymore. I use a digital watch now, $19.99 on sale on Amazon or whatever. But it tells me the time, the date, and the day, because I have no idea what day it is. I know the number of the day, but I don't know what day of the week it is. I guess that doesn't matter. I go by numbers anyway because I know that on that number I have to be at this destination. So it takes away things from you. And that's hard also. But you learn to live with it. You have to. Because if you don't, your whole life just slowly disappears. And I'm not ready to disappear yet. I've got a lot of work to do. I got to convince y'all that I really am living well, okay? I have Alzheimer's, but, my mantra, and you'll probably hear me say this a couple of times, is that I have Alzheimer's, but it doesn't have me. Because I don't allow it to define who I am. I'm still a person. I have a lot to say, as you can tell. And this is just, 10 minutes? I have a lot more time. That's why I say I just want to be treated as a person, not as a person with Alzheimer's disease. And that's important. Just because you have this thing does not mean that you become that thing. You're not Alzheimer's. I'm not Alzheimer's. I'm a person with Alzheimer's. That's who I am. But I'm not defined by that Alzheimer's because I refuse to. I'm still Brian. I still have some friends. But you're seeing me in a position right now where, wow, he's doing really, really well. Well, with the help of my friend upstairs, I don't mean this friend upstairs, I mean that guy sitting in the window up there, we're going to share a little video with you. Now, this is the first public showing of me having a bad day. We were on our way to Canada where we gave a presentation last week. And I woke up not doing very well at all. But I had to go. So we got to the airport. Things got worse. My care partner, Carmen, who is also a nurse practitioner, I've asked her, take a video of me when I'm having a bad day. But she didn't want to do it. It was too painful for her to do that. She's too close. But on this day, she did. And I'm thankful that she did. Because now I can kind of show you a glimpse inside my other life.
Hey everybody, this is Carmen Buck, Carmen Buck Photography, and Brian LeBlanc. We are Alzheimer's advocates, and it is World Alzheimer's Month still, September. You might be able to tell we are at the airport. Something Brian has made me promise is that when we do our lives, we will do both the good and challenging. The last couple days have been particularly challenging. We are on our way to Niagara Falls in Canada, and Brian is going to speak there. I'm joining, and I'm a travel partner because traveling has become a big challenge, especially today. Yes? Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say?
I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So this is super hard for us, but one of the things about, sorry, we're in an airport, it's loud. One of the things that Brian has made me promise is that we'll show the good and the bad, and today is a hard day, and I'm having a hard time talking and walking. There's been some near falls, and but we made it okay, and we're going to get on board first and make our way to New York, and God willing, by the time we get to New York, you will be feeling much better. Usually it's 3 or 4 hours, it just depends, and I'm pretty sure you're going to rock it out tomorrow when you speak. Tomorrow you're speaking tomorrow for Schlegel Village.
Okay.
You're going to be at Schlegel Village in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, talk about living well with Alzheimer's. And to be honest, this is part of living well. This is a hard day. We keep getting interrupted by that. Yeah, it's a hard day, but you know, it is the reality of it. There are days that are harder than others, and people sometimes wonder why a travel partner is so important, and this is part of why. Because you may not be able to make the trip otherwise, and so I'm happy to be able to accompany and to help out. And I know you're used to Brian doing a lot of talking, but that's a challenge this morning. So how about we sign on later when things are better too?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good. Okay. So smiles are kind of hard to come by right now. I know nobody's used to that. We'll be back though. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
That's hard for me to watch. But that's what it's like. That's the other side that nobody sees. That's the side that most of the time just the families get to see. Sometimes not even the families. Sometimes just the care partners. So with that said, I would like to ask all the care partners in the room, I want you to please stand. All the care partners, all the caregivers, please stand. Stay standing, stay standing, stay standing. I want to thank you. Because those of you that care for people like myself, you're kind of behind the curtain. You do all the work that a lot of people don't see. You allow your loved one to be able to do things that they're not able to do by themselves, but you help them do it so they can experience it. So for those that can't thank you for themselves, I thank you. For those that are no longer here, I thank you on their behalf. And for me, I thank you because I know what my care partner goes through on a daily basis. It's very, very hard. And saying thank you, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you do. And I want everyone else that's sitting down, please, a round of applause. Thank you very much. So I just want to be treated as a person, not as a person with Alzheimer's. I don't want to be treated like that guy that you just saw. But unfortunately, that's part of who I am. Part of who I am now. I don't like it much, but it is what it is. I can't control it because it comes on sometimes without any notice. Now, what helps me now is in my previous life, I used to be a PR and marketing guy. Yeah. Can you tell? I can sell you a car for $19.99. I used to make commercials. I used to be on TV. I used to be on the radio. And I miss that. I used to write the commercials. I did everything. Now that PR guy, he's still alive and well, and he lives in the back of my head. I always point to him and say, he's right here, and people go, oh, okay, you know. But you know, he lives in the long term. It's like looking at a picture. When you look at a picture, your mind goes back to that time, to that specific moment when that photo was taken. When I do this, I go back to when I was a PR guy, and I could get up and talk to thousands of people. I stood on a stage one time. I was introducing bands at a music fest. I got to introduce the B-52s, John Michael Montgomery. I can't remember. Well, there was a couple more. So anyway, but you know, you get up there. I mean, there were like 10, 15,000 people, and I just walked right on that stage and grabbed the microphone, and people said, "How do you do that?" I said, "I don't know. I just get out there and talk. That's what I do." And now people tell me, or ask me, they say, "How do you do what you do?" My answer is the same, but kind of different. It is, I do what I do. But if I don't do it, who is? Who's going to show, who's going to talk about that lived experience and what kind of goes through in my head? So hopefully, maybe for those of you that care for a loved one or a friend or anyone else that is in your family that has Alzheimer's or another dementia-related illness, to help you better understand what that person goes through on a daily basis, or when they have brain fog, or when they can't talk as clear as they used to be able to talk. I don't have an explanation for that, but at least I can talk about it so that maybe you can understand it a little bit better. Patty Davis, the daughter of Ronald Reagan, she says, "I think the earliest stages of Alzheimer's are the hardest, particularly because the person knows that they're losing awareness. They're aware that they're losing awareness, and you see them struggling. That's the hard part. See, I don't think my mother knew that she had Alzheimer's. I don't think she understood what was happening to her. I don't think my grandfather did either. I do. And trust me, you don't want to know. You don't want to feel that. Because you feel yourself slipping away a little bit. And you don't want to slip away because there's too much going on. There's too much to do. There's too much living to do. live in the here and now, and that's what you do. You live in each and every moment, and you enjoy that moment 100% of the time until you go to this moment. And then you enjoy that one 100% of the time. And by the time you get to this moment over here, you might remember 25% of it, but you're not going to remember it all the way, but you still experienced it 100%. So hopefully it's going to get stored back here and maybe come out a year later or sometime. I don't know how all that works. I'm not Dr. Levy. So I'm just the guy who has it. So I can tell you what goes on up here. Take time for thoughts and feelings. Now that was Carmen and I. She's looking at me adorably, by the way. We bought each other journals because she lives in Austin, Texas. I live in Pensacola, Florida. We don't get to see each other unless we're traveling together. But she said, on the down times, I want you to write to me. I want you to write what you're feeling. I want to write what you're doing. Tell me what's going on with you. And she does the same. And when we see each other, we bring each other the journal, and we switch, and we read them. And some of the funny ones we read out loud. Why? Because they're funny. You know, they're fun. Life is too serious not to sit around and laugh. You've got to laugh. You know, I do things that make me happy. I wear crazy colored socks. That's a little snow sea lion on my legs there, you know? I got that when I was in Australia. However, it is purple, and I have purple in my tie, so I match. Can't wear red, you know, no, that wouldn't work. What's that?
How about the other side?
Oh, I'll match my socks. Mr. Funny Guy. All right, I gotta remember that next time. I'll wear 2 different socks. That would be even better. You have to learn to express your thoughts and feelings to one another while you still can. You know, if you are in the early stages, or if your loved one is in the early stages, try to get them to write to you. Write things that are happening for you and with you. And see what happens. You can share those stories if possible. Or write down what you're feeling. And then when your loved one is having a good day, talk to them about it. Let them know what you experience and things of that. It may not resonate 100%, but if it makes that much difference, that's good. You help them have a better day. One of the things that I did when my mom was in her last stages, I was in Pensacola, of course, and they were in New Orleans. But my sister, who's 10 years older than me, refused to let me to go see my mom. She says, "You don't need to see this. You know, this is 3 months, you know, time frame." She goes, "You're dealing with something big. You know what it's like. You've seen it before, but I just need you to stay where you are." She did not want to see my mom in the stage that she was. Excuse me. So, me being a technical guy, I said, "Put me on speakerphone. I want to talk to her." So she did. So she held the phone up, she put me on speakerphone, and I started talking to my mother. Now, she had been unresponsive for the last 2 weeks. I'm the youngest. I'm her baby. I'm a 58-year-old baby. But as I started talking to her, her eyes started to move underneath her eyelids. They didn't open, but they just moved. And my sister told me, she says, her eyes are moving. She hears you. She goes, "Keep going." So I was just telling her everything that went on. But then I realized, my mom sang in church for 40 years. I sang in church for 40 years. We had that bond. So I sang our song, it was called "Be Not Afraid," that we shared in church. And I just sang it to her. And my sister says, "Oh my God, Brian, her eyes are going crazy." I mean, you could just see them going back and forth and back and forth. Never opening, but I don't care what anybody else says. She heard. You know? And so, my hope, and I've made this known, that in my later stages, I want music. I listen to music every single day because it gives me joy, it gives me hope, it makes me feel good. You know, who can't feel good listening to Casey and the Sunshine Band, right? So, but I got to share that with my mother. So don't think that just because the person that you're trying to communicate can't communicate back to you. I've been told this by doctors that the hearing is basically one of the last things to go. So they can still hear. Talk to them, read to them, sing to them, play music for them, anything. Because there's still a person inside there. They're not the Alzheimer's. They're not the dementia. They're still that person. Connection with others. As I said, I sing. That's a group, the four of us. We go to senior care communities. And we sing for them. We ask them, before we leave, we say, what do you want for the next time? And they say, we want movies. We want songs from movies. So the next time we go, we sing everything from Fiddler on the Roof, South Pacific, Sound of Music, anything that we can get our hands on that we can learn if we don't already know it. And when we go in, some of them are just sitting there, no expression, just kind of sitting there. So we start playing our music. After about the second or third song, you see the foot start to tap. Then after about 3 more songs, the hands start clapping with the foot. And then they start mouthing the words to the song. Then by about, we own maybe 3 songs left to the set, they're singing right along with us. But my friends that I don't really have too many of anymore, they ask me, they say, how do you do that? I say, how do I do what? And they say, how do you go there and sing in a place where you might wind up? And I said, well, you know what? I hope when I'm there, somebody comes and sings to me. And they go, oh. You see, my friends, a lot of them, you think you have a lot of friends. Think. But then when the chips are down, that's when you really find out who your best friends are. You really do. And that reminds me, I wrote some things down on my phone I forgot to say. Pardon me. I know what I'm doing. Here we go. Sometimes you have to let go of the picture of what you thought it would be like. And learn to find the joy in the story that you're actually living. So you have all these friends, you have all these memories, you have all these experiences, and you want to have fun, you want to live with them. You want to enjoy them, but sometimes you can't remember them. And at first it's like really, really hard. You're hard on yourself for not remembering these things. Why can't I remember? Oh, yeah, I know. And you let them go. Now, this didn't happen overnight. But you have to let it go. Because if you hold on to them, then that turns into anger. And the anger turns into all this negative energy. I don't need any more negative energy than what I already have within me. So I replace it. I replace it with positive energy. Up in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, that's my friend Robert Bowles. I don't know if y'all know him, but he lives, doesn't live in Atlanta, but right outside of Atlanta. Thank you. I'll remember your name in a second. Robin, thank you, Robin. But yeah, he lives here, and he has Parkinson's. Which is a dementia-related illness. and we travel in the same circles. We belong to some of the same organizations. And when we get together, we talk about everything else but our disease. We talk about friendships. We talk about our families. We talk about where you've been traveling. Where did you speak at? Oh, I spoke here. Oh, yeah, well, I spoke here. Then down in the bottom left, that's, we were in Canada somewhere, having lobster rolls, because I'm a member of a team that goes on dementia-friendly cruises. I know, right? It's awesome. This lady that I knew, she found me, and she said, "You have Alzheimer's, right?" And I said, "Who have you been talking to?" And she told me what she was doing, in that she takes families and their care partners or any other members of their families that want to go, and we do a cruise. And it's all dementia friendly. On the days that we're out at sea, we have seminars, we have educational classes. We break it up. We have respite care, so the care partners can have some time to themselves. And their loved ones are taken care of with activities or walk around and do anything that they need to do. Then when we go out on excursion, sometimes we'll accompany whoever needs a little assistance. Even I help other people that have dementia, that may be having trouble walking. I pushed, his name was Dan. I pushed Dan all around Sitka, Alaska, up hills too, in a wheelchair. I was tired. Just showed me how out of shape I was. But, so I've been to Alaska to see the glaciers. I've been through the northeastern states in Canada. I've been to the Eastern Caribbean. Next month, I'll be going to the Panama Canal. I'm crossing things off on my bucket list right now. Things that I've always wanted to do, but never had the opportunity to do. And now I have Alzheimer's, and I'm getting all these opportunities. And I don't pay for anything, because I'm one of the speakers that's on the boat. So that's even better. Because I don't have any money. Because I don't work no more. But you know, you gotta look for the good.
That's it.
You've got to look for the good. That's what I'm trying to say, is that living well is looking for that good.
That's right.
I know there's a lot of bad, and it sucks. But you can't do anything about it. You can't change it. You can't say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm not going to have Alzheimer's anymore. Even though I do that every night. But it doesn't work. This last picture down in the bottom right was when we were in Denver, Colorado for the Pioneer Network Conference. But after the conference ended, the other gentleman standing with the blue shirt with the glasses, his name is Jack York. He owns a company called It's Never Too Late. And it specializes in technological things for people that are living with dementia. Well, he kept myself and Mike, the guy that's all the way on the right. Mike has Lewy body. I have Alzheimer's. And he made a documentary. And we went all around Denver. We toured the Coors Brewery. We saw how whiskey was made. Got samples. We saw how wine was made. We went on all these different excursions. And it was all being filmed. And then we sat down. I was in this place called Red Rock, Colorado. It was a beautiful place. Sitting on these rocks being interviewed for the documentary. And it's amazing because we wanted to show, we talk about everything. Kind of like what I'm talking about here. Talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But at least we're out of the house and we're sitting on these huge rocks in the middle of bigger rocks, talking about stuff. And it's amazing. It was electrifying. But it's going to make a difference in someone's life. Even if it makes a difference in one. It's going to show that, wow, I can do this. Why am I sitting inside all the time? I need to get out. I need to do things. I just wanted to be treated as a person, not as a person with Alzheimer's. Did I already have that one? I knew it sounded familiar. Let me go to another quote. How's that? The best thing about the worst time of your life is that you get to see the true colors of everyone. That better? Okay, yeah, I thought so. And that's the truth. That goes back to the whole friendship thing. In that you think you have all these people in your group and you really don't, because they just flee like, whatever things flee. So, let's talk about connection. Dr. Levy sat at this table with me almost all morning. And he just looked over at me and he said, are you sure you have Alzheimer's? He goes, what is your secret? And I said, the only thing that I can tell you is that it's social interaction. The more I'm around people, the better off I am. It's true. It's true. It energizes me. It gives me energy. It gives me happiness. It gives me hope. Doesn't have to be in person. As you see, I have all these different things up here. Social media, Facebook, Zoom. Zoom is like a business platform of Skype. Skype is y'all know what Skype is? Yeah. Okay, good. And of course, Facebook, Instagram. Now, Instagram is unique because it focuses on the pictures, on the photos. The thing about photos is you can take a picture of something, 10, 15 years later, you can look back at that picture and you go right back to where you were, what you were doing in your mind. You see that. I look at pictures every single day of my past because it makes me happy. Because I can relive those moments. People ask me, they say, what is your happy place? Where is your happy place? And this will probably shock you when I say it. It's Disney World. I've been going to Disney World since 1976. That was my first time there. The only thing there was the Magic Kingdom. Epcot didn't even exist yet. I've been there probably about 30 times in my lifetime. The last 3 times that I went to Disney World, I went by myself. And people say, are you crazy? And I said, I hope so. And they say, no, seriously, how do you do this? It's the long-term memory. You make memories of these places that you visit so frequently. I was giving people, people always walk around with these maps, let's see, we have to go over there for the elephant ride, and and then they'll stop and they'll ask me. I mean, if they only knew who they were asking. And I would say, yeah, you just keep on walking that way, you see a fork and you go to the right. And because I know where everything is. Now, Epcot, I still have to look at a map, but at least I can still look at a map. Now, when it gets to going to Universal, it's not Universal anymore, is it? It's Walt Disney or Disney Films or something. What is it? I don't even think it's that anymore. They changed it to Disney something. It's where they have Star Wars. Huh? Okay, Disney Springs is the shopping area outside of Disney World. Thank you very much. That's a very cool place. They got all kinds, anything Disney, but very, very nice stuff. It's another place. It's the newest park. I don't know that much. And then you have the Jungle World, Animal Kingdom. Yes, thank you. Jungle World to me. But I don't know those areas. So I have to look at a map. And so I basically stay in the Magic Kingdom and Epcot, because those are the places I know, and I don't want to get lost. So I enjoy those, and I have many, many fun times there, all by myself. But the last visit, I called my sister. And I asked her, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, how am I doing this? And she says, and she knew what I was asking. And she goes, okay, where are you? I said, I'm standing on Main Street in front of the castle. And she says, close your eyes. So I closed my eyes. And she goes, what do you smell? I said, I smell popcorn. I smell turkey legs. I was just explaining to her everything that I smelled. She goes, what do you hear? I said, right now they're playing something from, Cinderella or, whatever song was playing. She says, number one, I can't believe you didn't figure this out yourself. She says, number two, the smells, the sounds, all those things are familiar to you. You're reliving your past in your present right now. So just stand there and absorb it all. And when you go to Epcot, do the same thing, because it's the same type of experience. See, living well takes a little work. But once you figure it out, once you have the keys, you can go anywhere and do anything that you really enjoyed before you had Alzheimer's or before you had your dementia-related illness. You can still enjoy your life. There's no need just to sit and in anguish and say, oh, poor me. But I did. 3 days after my diagnosis, I was still in bed, curled up in a ball. I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't do anything. You get a diagnosis like that and you get hit in the gut. But on that third day, I had this epiphany that I knew what I had to do, and I knew I had to talk. I knew I had to use my voice, because when that doctor told me, you have early onset Alzheimer's disease, I didn't even know what that was. I knew what Alzheimer's was. I never heard of early onset. And he says, well, it's just a disease you get when you're under the age of 65. I'm not going to go into the whole neurological thing, because it'll stay there. So I said, who else has this disease and they don't even know that they have it? Who has this disease and they don't know anything about it? So I had to talk. I had to tell them. So that's why I do this. Because I want to make, it's not going to be crystal clear, it never will be. Because Alzheimer's is the most misunderstood disease in the world. My friends, my true friends, they cut me no slack. And I love them for that. My good friend who lives in Oklahoma, when I was first diagnosed, he sent me this picture. This is the second day. I was diagnosed one day, this is the day after. He sent me a picture of a t-shirt. And the t-shirt simply read, roses are red, violets are blue. I have Alzheimer's, cheese on toast. That's exactly what I did. I just laughed and laughed and laughed. My wife came up behind me and she says, oh my God, that's so cruel. I said, no, it's so funny. I said, come on. You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. Now, learning new things. People think that you can't learn how to do new things. I learned how to be divorced. Yeah, that was a picnic. I'll make it short. The reason why I recognize care partners is because that job is the hardest job in the world, in my opinion. They deserve all the praise. But not everyone is cut out to be a care partner. Not everyone can be a care partner. They try. They try very hard. But they reach a point where they just can't do it anymore. That's what happened to my ex-wife. And it was okay. I was angry at first, but it's okay. I can't hold a grudge against a person for not wanting to take care of me, because it's hard. We still talk. She still checks in on me, but she doesn't do it every day. Sometimes it'll go for a couple of weeks, and then she'll, make a call. I don't hold a grudge against that. I can't. Why? Because that's going to make me go down. I can't go down, so I have to stay up. So I wish her well. I wish her a good life. Managing finances, however, is anybody in the banking business here? Good, because banks suck. You mess up your checkbook one time, you're paying like $3 million in bank fees. I ain't gonna do that again. I'm gonna start keeping it under my mattress. That's hard, because when I was married, and even before then, whoever I was with, they usually handled the finances. Now I'm handling them. You know? So now, but this is a learning thing. This is something that I had to learn all over again. I thought I knew how. Obviously, I did not. I just had to keep a better eye on it, that's all. So, but I'm learning how to do that. I already talked to you about my watches. That's why I use a digital watch, because I can't tell time on a regular watch. But you enjoy the simple things. These are things that were on my bucket list. During the summer, I got to go to California, where we spoke at a neurological conference. I wanted to see the Hollywood sign. We drove up this road that was this small, this wide, that we found, that we could get the perfect shot of the Hollywood sign. That's my picture that I took of the Hollywood sign. The one over the glacier, that's the thank you. That's that. That I got to see just a couple of weeks ago. We were going up, in Glacier Bay. And then last week, Niagara Falls. I'm crossing things off of my bucket list. Next thing I'm going to do is skydive. What? What if my chute doesn't open? Big deal. Come on. I'll be laughing all the way there. Yes! I told you didn't have me. I just like to live life, because life in and of itself is way too short. You blink a blink of an eye, it can be gone. And I don't want to miss out on any opportunity that I have to enjoy. And that's all. Please don't be afraid to ask anything that you want to know about. I'm very open. I talk about everything, so nothing is really off limits. If you have a question, there's one in the back.
Wait for the mic, please.
Wait for the mic. Yes.
Does the other Brian, is he aware of you? How's that? Or do you know?
What other Brian do you
The one I saw in the movie.
I know, I'm just kidding. That's a good question. I've never thought of that. I mean, I'm aware of him, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that when I'm in the fog, I usually don't remember anything during that time. Even when I look back, I was kind of looking at that person. I know it was me, but I don't recognize him as being me. So yeah, it's kind of a strange thing that I have no explanation for. I would say though that I know that I have the bad days. I don't think that he knows that I have good days. Something like that. Yes?
First thing I'm very enjoying listening your lecture and your experience.
Thank you.
The second one I'm asking is your problem getting improved? I mean, you did, Alzheimer has been improved, getting better?
Some people say yes. And it comes from my social engagement. It comes from just keeping busy. I'm gonna be going back home, and home is in Pensacola. I'm going back home this evening. I haven't been in Pensacola since August the 25th. I've been traveling around Texas, giving lectures, giving presentations. I've been on a cruise, I've been to Canada, been to Denver. I've been in a bunch of different places, and it was easier to stay in one place and fly out of there than stay and having to go all over. So, and plus, Carmen lives in Austin, and so she travels with me, and it's easier that way. So, I'm gonna go home for a little bit. I'll be there for about maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I think, and then I'll be back up in Richmond, Virginia, and other places. So, but the social engagement has had a very positive effect on me because it keeps my mind fresh. It keeps it spinning. When I'm at home by myself, I have to invent ways to keep it going like that. And it's difficult. And that's when I have most of my bad days, is when I'm home by myself. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Brian,
Yes.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hey.
I have really enjoyed you expressing yourself with this disease, but I would like to know, what is your most frustrating part about this disease? Is it, especially when you are alone?
Well, okay. I know you can't see what's on here, but I have all these reminders on my phone. Over the past year, probably the past year and a half, I've lost between 50 and 75 pounds. I'm 153 pounds soaking wet. I was forgetting to eat because with my Alzheimer's, my taste buds have been diminished. Now, being from New Orleans, that's really, really sad because I enjoy food. But I just didn't feel hungry, so I just didn't eat. Now I have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner reminder to make myself eat. Now, if I don't eat at that time, I miss my window. I don't know, I just don't want the alarm going off every 5 minutes, eat. So I'm training myself. It's like learning the new thing. I have a reminder to bathe. When I was still with my wife, she asked me one day, she says, "When's the last time you took a bath?" And I said, "Why? Do I smell?" And she says, "No." And I said, "Well, being that you're asking me the question, I think you know the answer." And she goes, "Your towel hasn't moved for 4 days." I hadn't bathed in 4 days. So now my phone tells me, take a bath. Yeah, thanks. Okay, she needs to leave. And also my medications, okay? As I told you before, I have type 2 diabetes and I have, did I tell you that? Oh, I forgot that, sorry. I have type 2 diabetes and I have heart disease. I've had 3 heart attacks. So, which brings me to another point. I never ever in my life have done anything halfway. I go all in. So, I got the cardiac issues from my dad. No idea where the diabetes came from. So I take medications. There again, my phone, my reminders tell me when to take my medications. So if you're asking what frustrates me the most, besides having this disease, it's having to be reminded to do the things that I used to be able to do without any notice. But now I have help. So that turns the frustration into an accomplishment. And that's the only way I can live my life, is I figure out how I can take something that doesn't work and make it work. It may not work really, really well, but at least it's working sometimes. And it does make a difference in my head.
One final question.
Hi, my husband has Alzheimer's.
Okay,
He's an engineer.
okay,
Engineers are introverted most of the time.
right,
I'm an extrovert, obviously.
okay,
And so I keep pushing him to do things, and I don't mean pushing him, but I do mean pushing him, I'm sorry. I really do. We went to Norway for 2 weeks. We try to do a lot of different things with music, that kind of stuff. I never know whether he's having a good time or not. He's introverted.
right.
But anyway, he says it's okay. So I don't know at what point I should quit maybe pushing. I feel like I'm gonna just keep pushing him all the time.
Okay. I'm not a medical expert, so this is just my opinion. If he was not an extrovert before, it's very unlikely that he's going to turn into one now. Maybe you can do small things. Norway? Wow.
Yeah. Take home with blood clots in his lungs. A great caretaker.
You should have asked me this question before you went to Norway. You've heard of like baby steps, you know? Maybe take it to a girl's town, you know, first. But no, that's, you know, if basically what in your long-term memory lives the thoughts and memories of who you were. And that's what you have to build on. Oh, I shouldn't say that's what you have to. You're building on what you feel is going to be best for him. But if you could build upon something that you really, really enjoyed, and then do that, let him experience that enjoyment, and then build on that. And I really mean, you know, little steps that he could, you know, and I understand. And if you still have that need to go out and do stuff, then do you have a place that does like day respite or things like that? Or could you bring someone in just to maybe a family member or something, and just sit with him for a few hours and let you get out? Because you need to do that. Because you're, you know, an extrovert being kept from extroverting could be not exactly right. You don't need to be the angry care partner. Oh, yeah, Norway, yeah, we go to New Zealand next time, buddy. You know, you just that. And look, y'all know that I use humor in most everything I do, because of the fact that that is something that I feel is good. You can always find humor no matter how dark the place is. And I much rather live in the light than in the dark, which is why I'm not making fun of it. I'm not making fun of anybody that has it. I'm making fun of myself, and I'm laughing at myself, not laughing at anyone. But I just find that's what helps me. You know, the title of this whole thing was, you know, living well and having Alzheimer's, but not allowing it to have me. My laughter keeps it away, keeps it at bay. And so if I laugh, it's because I need to. And I need to live as well as I possibly can, so I can keep doing things like this. Thank God very much.
Okay, just again, on behalf of everyone here at the AFA, thank you for being here. Please make sure to give Jeannie or Al your emails. Have a great day.